I would like to read to you the most important message I have ever read and understood. Today is Thursday, the 13th of March, and today is the official day of disclosure that we are no longer alone. I'm now going to read to you a channeled message from Catherine May. This message channeled the Galactic Federation's commander, Ashtar, aboard a ship, explaining what's going on. Hello, all beloved Earth dwellers. It is I, Ashtar. I have good news to tell you about our successful double trouble display over the Ukraine. You will appreciate the irony embedded in the truth, which is now being revealed around the world. We are whooping and hollering on the ships in happiness and joy, as you might say. Many of you have seen the video of the cigar-shaped UFO over the Crimea, the territory where Putin gathered his ships and troops to try to keep peace by applying military force. This video was seen all over Russia as well as the rest of the world, and was claimed by the Russian press to be a UFO. You may have noticed it was then that Putin pulled the Russian troops back to their barracks. He decided that the sight of a 3,000-foot long UFO flying surveillance over the trouble spot was not something he wanted to challenge. All might have died down, met as it was by the cold shoulder of the cabal-controlled media, if it weren't for the following release from the Turner Radio Network. I quote it here in its entirety for comic relief. Please note that. March the 8th, 2014. TRN. The United States has developed a spectacular new military asset in the skies over the Ukraine. The craft made its presence known on March the 6th in broad daylight, and it so baffled media and local residents they called it a UFO. Since the craft has now been publicly seen, TRN is pleased to be able to report the development and deployment of the new Sky Dreadnout. Video of the craft over Ukraine and further details as below. The Sky Dreadnout is the most advanced military weapon system in the history of human existence. Nothing on the face of the earth can even come close to comparing. The ship, a long cigar-shaped craft, is almost 3,000 feet in length, about the length of 3 aircraft carriers. It flies by virtue of a gravity manipulation system, allowing it to operate at any altitude, even into space, and return, without need of jet engines, propellers, massive fuel tanks or rocket engines. All this is achieved by the manipulation of Earth's gravity, which for all intents and purposes affords unlimited motion possibilities. Since the craft manipulated gravity, there are zero gravitational effects upon the crew or systems inside the craft. Instead of the craft moving despite gravity, gravity itself moves with the craft. This means the craft can maneuver at previously impossible speeds and angles without the crew suffering any G-forces. While its maximum speed is classified, TRN can report the Sky Dreadnout can easily travel in excess of 10,000 miles per hour inside Earth's atmosphere, or stop and hover, all of it totally silent. Not only can it achieve these amazing speeds, it can do so almost instantaneously, making the craft totally untouchable by any weapons system on Earth. The exterior of the craft is coated with trillions of nanites, so technically advanced it cannot be tracked by radar, cannot be locked onto by fire control or any radar, cannot be tracked by infrared or heat-seeking weapons. These nanites are not only part of the anti-radar features of the craft, they are also part of the defensive light-bending, visual stealth, communications and weapons systems. For defensive purposes, the nanites can be used to view and transfer images seen on one side of the craft to the other side, meaning the craft can seem to disappear to the naked eye. For communications, other nanites direct all electromagnetic emissions to the sky, making it impossible for ground or air-based radio tracking or communication interception. As to weaponry, the Sky Dreadnought does not use any conventional weapons. All of its weapons are a type of pulse plasma beams, which when seen by the naked eye appear to be bluish white, focusing bolts of lightning. The weapons were first used on an experimental basis in the Second Iraqi War, where prototypes were tank mounted and were seen melting cars, trucks and buses to the shock and horror of the Iraqi troops who witnessed them. The weapons operate 360 degrees vertically and 360 degrees horizontally without any blind spots. Nothing can escape the craft's weapons, and no man-made object on Earth can withstand being hit by the beams. Metals turn molten and melt in seconds. Concrete is reduced to powder instantly. Human bodies shrivel to burnt, melted hulks, the size of infants, in less than 1 second. If attacked, the system on board the craft can engage a staggering number of threats simultaneously. Literally thousands of attacking targets can be wiped out of existence before they even get close to the craft. While the range of its plasma weapons is classified, TRN can report the craft has the ability to attack any target from horizon to horizon, no matter the altitude of the craft. Given this ability, there isn't a weapon on Earth that can be launched or used against the Dreadnought without the attack being detected and destroyed. Making the craft all the more amazing is that once its weapons are used, the area in which they were used is completely safe to enter. No long-term radiation or other health hazards exist. This being the case, the craft can go in and utterly flatten an entire country, and the area it conquers will be ready for repopulation and redevelopment by the United States immediately after the confrontation. Believe it or not, the craft is based in an underwater base in an ocean. The craft can operate underwater, but there are still some unresolved issues in using its weapons while it's submerged. The weapons work, but anything else close to the area, they are also affected by the dispersion of the plasma, which has unintended consequences for innocent life forms in the area. It took more than 25 years and literally trillions of dollars to develop this craft. Those claiming the Pentagon cannot account for trillions of dollars can now figure out where that money went. An American world order. You've heard of the United States of America. Get ready for the United States of Earth. There will be a new world order, and it will be American. The presently existing nations of the world have proved themselves uneducated, petty and barbaric. They have lost the right to be sovereign independent states, as will be displayed shortly in Crimea. Once Russia misbehaves too much, and it is utterly humiliated when battle begins, the one world government that's been in the works in the UN will suddenly turn out to be American, because the rest of the world will have no choice. 5 days ago, when this website ran a story announcing the deployment of US aircraft carrier strike group towards the Black Sea over the Ukrainian situation, many were critically claiming it to be a hoax, yet days later the carrier strike force appeared off the coast of Greece. The final paragraph in that story stated in part, the US is also deploying another weapons system which has been successfully tested, which can knock the S-400 out of action. Have you noticed, every time a country is taken over by the cabal, UFOs appear in the sky over that country? Please watch the videos that are attached over this, showing you this UFO over Crimea. And now we go back to Ashtar direct speaking. Yes indeed, beloved ones, there was a massive surveillance ship over the Ukraine, but it was not developed by the US government in secret. It belongs to the Sirius Star System fleet under the Ashtar command. I could not resist. I took the helm myself to carry out this mission, and what a pleasure it was. Now you may be wondering about the above press release. I must admit to having come up with a rather catchy name, the Sky Dreadnout. Of course it is a bit of a play on words, since it is intended to sound terrifyingly dreadworthy, but the title can also be read as Dreadnought. We are rather proud of the science fiction bit of group writing, which describes very accurately, if a bit dramatically, the actual capabilities of the ship, which Catherine has described as totally, awesomely awesome. We are especially pleased with the outcome of our efforts. There will now rage a debate across the world under the true origins of this craft, thanks to our Turner boots on the ground. It is truly the most advanced military weapon system in the history of human existence, and it belongs to the US. The rest of the world is completely under the control of the United Nations and states, as the article says. If it doesn't belong to the US and no one else has claimed it, then what? It has to be a UFO. Does the military of every country in the world dare ignore the possibility that this is truly a game changer? That every weapon known to man is now completely and utterly obsolete, and that any form of military resistance is now completely unthinkable? What if it does belong to the US? What if it doesn't? Can you picture the shouting and chest pounding on the boardrooms and war rooms of the cabal-sponsored military elite? Can you imagine their red-faced frustration at learning they are completely impotent? There is nothing their money can buy that can forcefully re-establish their power this time. On the deck of the New Jerusalem, the flagship of the Galactic Federation, we can hear the strains of the wonderful March of the Tin Soldiers from Your Nutcracker Suite. These people, their only recourse is to pretend that they are unaware or disbelieving about the presence of the great ship. Of course it will be as easy to ignore as the proverbial elephant in the living room. Given the stranglehold on the media, they might have successfully, eventually, because of the short memory of the public, but we have thought of that too. You may also have heard about the airliner which vanished in Malaysia. Flight 370 was just off the eastern coast over shallow water when it wavered in the air, then suddenly dropped from 35,000 feet to zero and disappeared. At the same time, radar showed a plane which suddenly accelerated 4 or 5 times the speed of any other craft, hovered in one place, then suddenly vanished from the radar screens, second before the airliner also disappeared. I am pleased to tell you that all the passengers and crew of the airline are safe and happy in a secret location. There were several ships in the area, and the manoeuvre was carried out effortlessly. It is very serendipitous that the airplane carried a large number of light workers from many countries, who are delighted and very enthusiastic about the proposal we have made to them, that they be used as hostages to expedite the following demands. Their release will be contingent upon an immediate global agreement that all countries now in possession of any weapons of mass destruction relinquish them to be evaporated forthwith. 1. Nasara law will be presented for signature to all the world's leaders, representatives of every country on the UN Charter, and will be immediately enacted. We anticipate that President Barack Obama will be the first signatory on the document. There will be declared a global celebration of peace for every person on the planet, regardless of race, religion or nationality, to be marked by 1 month of singing, dancing and public performance in every village, town and city on earth. All expenses are to be underwritten with the funds which would have been allocated for military expenditures. All military personnel will be paid full salary for 3 months after they turn in all weapons and uniforms and return to rebuild their own families and communities. After that, no expenditure by any individual or nation will be permitted for any military activity or equipment whatsoever. This will free governing bodies to use their resources for infrastructure, water and sanitary systems, sustainable agriculture and educational and social programs to elevate the conditions for all citizens. The people of planet Earth can also look forward to the sharing of the technology behind the propulsion system for the marvellous spacecraft they will soon observe all over major cities in the world. We wish for them to become familiar and comfortable with our presence, and which they will soon associate with freedom, good times, free energy and global prosperity. We promise you disclosure, dear ones. Well, here it is. It may take a few days for the inevitable of this massive change to sink into the consciousness of all the citizens of the planet, but I assure you it has already begun. We will continue to display our presence to the world. Now that the US has been declared the supreme power over all, it will cause increased confusion in the ranks of the elite. But we are certain the citizenry will adapt very quickly to the fact of permanent and lasting peace on earth. Here on the New Jerusalem, we rejoice with a gentler kind of drumbeat. We enjoyed adding our own lyrics as we sing the child's song that ends like this. I played my drum for him, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. I played my best for him, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. Then he smiled at me, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, me and my drum. Yes, we will be all marching to a different drummer, the pulse of the universe, the breath of our beloved Prime Creator, with our star brothers and sisters at our side. We will rejoice together in the sparkling light of the new golden age. I am your brother in love, joy and laughter, Ashtar. This was transcribed and channeled by Catherine E. May on March the 11th, 2014 at 12 a.m. in High Falls, New York. This information may be obtained from our website, allthatis.co.uk, where you will find a full explanation of the terms of abbreviation in here, which will include Prime Source Creator, Mother, Father God, Ashtar, the Galactic Federations of Light, Saint Germain, and members of the Hollow Earth Fraternity. Thank you.